They did what to her corpse? Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair is a sequel to the wonderfully weird mystery detective visual novel game Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, developed and published by Spike Chunsoft in 2012. I really enjoyed the first Danganronpa. The characters, interesting cases, the cheese. I enjoyed all of it despite the game being a bare bones port. The first game left on a cliffhanger, so I'm hard and ready to dig in. Well, let's begin the class trial once again. The graphics are decent. It still has that unique looking anime art style and pop-up picture book diorama aesthetic, which is great. And the characters has distinct designs that match their personality and ultimate ability. Unfortunately, the PC version is still just a bare bones port and not a remaster, so the game looks the same as the original PSP or Vita version. Like the first game, some assets are low res and pixelated to hell, and some animations aren't consistent with the game's overall frame rate. It's fine on a handheld because you can't see as much detail, but playing on a modern console on a TV or close up on a monitor, you'll see the blemishes much more clearly and it's distracting. It's not like the PC version was released alongside the original PSP or Vita version, so that's all they can do. Now that I think about it, PC versions of games have settings you can switch to look better than the original anyway, so they could have done it back then too, but anyway. The PC version was released years after the original release, so they had the time to do a remaster, so it's kinda weird that the devs didn't. With all that said, it runs well with no crashes or stutters or things like that, so that's always nice. The music is still good, though they did reuse some tracks from the first game, so it's not entirely new. Of all the tracks they reused, they didn't keep the old investigation music.
I love the investigation music, man, it makes me calm.
Just a nitpick. The gameplay has changed quite a bit with the exception of reading and finding clues, of course. This is still a visual novel, so there's a lot of reading involved, so if you're looking to get into the series and are not into reading, this is not the series for you. You explore the map, talk to characters, get their backstory, and get a new skill to use in class trials. Oh, and you get their panties or underwear when you fill up their friendship meter for some reason. Okay. There's a leveling system now where you can increase the amount of skills you can select during class trials. You level up by doing anything really. Walking, talking, examining things on the map. You get something for it, so you're motivated to learn about everything even if you don't get enough skills to fill that amount of slots by the end. There's a new pet system, which is basically a Tamagotchi where you can feed the mascot of the game Osami and clean up her shit, and get new skills and gifts, which is neat, though it does take a long time to see her grow, like all the way to the end of the game long. Danganronpa 2 is a detective game set in a killing game where you have to use the evidence you found on the map in class trials to find out who killed who. Characters will present an argument and you have to find the contradiction to refute with a piece of evidence. Being a sequel, Danganronpa 2 added to many of the mechanics from the first game. Not only do you need to find the contradiction in each argument, you have to find the truth that you agree with that are highlighted in blue. The minigames have changed, with some not for the better, and new ones are added. After you point out a contradiction, someone can pop out of nowhere and slap your ass cheeks with a counter argument. You then have to cut down their words and end their whole career with a truth bullet. It looks cool, but not really practical for gameplay. Sometimes the words go across the screen too fast and you can't read what they're saying in time if you play the game in subbed instead of dubbed, which is the only disadvantage I can think of when playing an anime game subbed. The same applies to the argument part in the class trials. The words move around all weird, spins, and goes ape shit, making them hard to read at times. I didn't have this problem in the first game since I played that with the English dub. And honestly, I didn't expect that to be such a problem. So I can't believe I'm saying this about an anime game, but play with the dub for a better gameplay experience. Back to the minigames, the one that changed the most is the Hangman's Gambit minigame. In the first game, you just have to shoot letters to form the right word. In Danganronpa 2, the letter come from the edges of the screen and you have to combine two of them to form a bigger letter to shoot and add to complete the word. I do not like this minigame. There's a lot to keep track of and the letters will speed up the further you play. It gets overwhelming fast. If a letter hits another different letter, it hurts you. You can take a letter and put it somewhere else, but another letter can come off the screen and hit it, making you lose even more health. And you don't know where the new letter is gonna pop up, so you just gotta guess. If you fuck up during an argument or any other minigame before doing this one, leaving your health bar low, you're gone. Deleted. There's no way to not get damaged at least once. It's ridiculous. And the devs knew it too, since the health bar has been increased quite a bit compared to the last game. Yes, you can still use focus to slow down time, but it only lasts for so long and it takes a while to recharge. I ended up not giving a shit since there are infinite continues. Another minigame they added is Logic Dive. It's basically a surfing game where you have to answer questions by going the right way while dodging obstacles. It's pretty simple, but I appreciate the fact that the devs try to make the minigames more engaging and reaction based than the first game. I do wish they give players more time to read the questions and answers before having them pick a route though. It really ruins the momentum when you have to slow down and read before moving on. Danganronpa 2 is a more demanding game overall. Compared to the first game, you have to remember a lot more details for the class trials, and some clues are not included in the list of truth bullets, so you better pay attention in class, kids. Speaking of truth bullets, make sure to read their descriptions. They can have clues that may not be included in their name or picture. This may sound obvious, but coming from the first game where I did no reading and just looked at the name and pictures and still beat the game, it's way more necessary this time. For example, like the colors included in a bag of gummies. Like the first game, there's some logic problems. In one of the cases, you have to determine the cause of death of a character inside a video game that the students played. At the crime scene, there's a broken fish tank with broken glass and gravel spilled from it next to a dead girl's body. And there's also mention of a pervert stealing a girl's swimsuit. The girl died from whack to the head, so naturally you would think the killer did it with the fish tank. Or some sort of blunt weapon? No, that's not the correct answer. The right answer is the killer used the swimsuit to hold the gravel from the fish tank, twisted the ends of the swimsuit to contain the gravel, and whacked the girl with it. How are we supposed to figure that out? I didn't even think the swimsuit was a part of the equation. There's no sign of the swimsuit being used anywhere in the scene. If there was like a piece of fabric or something from the swimsuit found, then maybe I could have figured it out, but no, there was jack shit. I had to look up some forums to figure this out, and I'm not the only one who had this problem. This was so out of the box that it went into outer space. Another example, from the same case actually, is the pack of gummies. One of the girls is suspected of being the killer since a piece of gummy that she likes was found at the scene of the crime. She was proven not guilty because the pack of gummies she likes doesn't have the yellow colored ones that was found at the crime scene. But check out the picture of the pack of gummies that was found in her room. You see which color is included in the bag? That's right, yellow. Don't trust the name or picture of the truth bullet, read the description. One quality of life improvement I want is to be able to see which truth bullets are selected for arguments on the list. I can't count the amount of times I wanted to check the description of a clue just to forget what I could pick, and ended up going back and forth between menus. For side content there are two modes, Magical Girl Miracle Monomi and Island mode. In Miracle Monomi, you play as Usami or Monomi and kill the mono beasts. That's a lot of mono. To unlock the many islands for the students in the main game. Have you ever played Pokemon Ranger where you capture Pokemon by drawing circles and breaking your DS screen so you have to buy another one? Yeah, this is basically that, except you kill shit instead. It's alright, kinda janky, just kill things, upgrade your equipment, and kill more things. It's pretty simple, but a decent distraction. Finally, there's Island mode. This is basically if Usami stops Monokuma from taking over the island and everyone has fun instead of killing each other. It's a management game where you have to collect hope fragments to win. I'm not really a fan of these games, unless it involves hot anime milfs that you can fuck. Overall, this game can be both challenging and frustrating, and I played this on the middle kind difficulty by the way. You can feel like an absolute genius when you figure shit out with your big brain and pee-pee, but damn can it slap you hard. The logic gets funky sometimes and the minigames, while I appreciate the devs for trying to improve them, feel undercooked or unbalanced. I like the new mechanics they added, but that's about it. The gameplay is a mixed bag this time around, but the story, man. It's story time. If you don't want any spoilers, then skip to this timestamp. I think the story is worth going through, so play it before watching. Yeah. The story starts off with you, the protagonist, Hajime Hinata, who's about to start his student life at Hope's Peak Academy, the school where all the geniuses go to. Suddenly, you black out, transported to this matrix door, and meet the colorful cast of students. Yes, that's Fat Byakuya. I'll talk about him later. Everyone's all confused, wondering how they got there until the culprit reveals themselves. It's a stuffed rabbit. Her name's Usami, the teacher of this class of ultimate students. Also, you're on a tropical island now. What? Usami tells the students to relax and play, but of course everyone is skeptical. Hajime immediately thinks of the worst case scenario. Are we in a death game? Are we gonna have to kill each other to get out? What is happening? Nope, just a fun way, kid. You explore the island and talk to everyone. Usami gave everyone the task of collecting hope fragments that show up after getting to know someone. After everyone gets a certain amount, they can leave. Not just kidding, Monokuma's here, everybody gonna die, welcome to hell. This is Danganronpa after all, so of course everyone has amnesia, so they can't remember their time spent at Hope's Peak, and there's a traitor amongst them. The story might seem like a retread of the first game, but the devs added so much more on top of it. The cases are just as interesting, if not even more so than the first game. There's one that has you play a video game to figure out how it connects to the actual murder. Another one has everyone trapped in this weird fruit building that's all elaborate at first glance. It's pretty tricky dicky. A couple of the cases can feel dragged out due to the elaborate nature of the setup though, so you gotta be patient. Overall, all the cases are full of twists and fun. Logic problems aside, of course. The characters, like the first game, don't get much in terms of character development unless they're the ones who did the killing or you talk to them when in free mode. That's not to say there are no interesting characters. There's some wacky ones like Tanaka, who's the ultimate breeder and can command his hamsters to do shit. Nekomaru, the ultimate team manager who turns into a robot and then an even smaller one. Every character has some funny quirk that makes them fun to interact with. Some have touching backstories, but like I said, the amount of development you get depends on how often you talk with them in free mode, so how effective they are really depends on the player. The most extreme of all the characters, and from what I can tell is also a fan favorite, is Nagito, the ultimate lucky student. This man is edgy as fuck, and I'll get to him later. Overall, the characters are fun, but you have to get to know them in free mode to get the deeper stuff. As everyone's doing their thing, we slowly learn about what happened during everyone's time at Hope's Peak, where they are, and who did this to them. The students are on Jabberwock Island, a well-known tourist attraction in the Danganronpa universe. The group behind this abduction, I guess you could say, is the Future Foundation, with Usami and the traitor being a part of it. How did they take over a massive island that's also a famous tourist attraction? Well, they didn't. This whole island is a part of a simulation. At the beginning of the game, you'll notice a few obvious signs that supports this. The sun blobby fade to black, the glitchy video effects, the computer, and the most obvious of all, the matrix door. But why? Why is everyone here? Does dying even have any consequences? These questions will be answered later. Right now we have Hajime's identity to figure out. We know that everyone has amnesia and can't remember their time at school, but Hajime doesn't even remember his ultimate ability. As you progress the story, you get tiny flashbacks from Hajime's life before entering Hope's Peak. There's talk about Hajime's parents paid to get him into Hope's Peak, and while exploring, Monokuma pops up and calls him a reserve corps student. Later on, Nagito, after playing Russian roulette with 5 out of 6 bullets in the chamber, obtains a book with the info of all the students on it, and of course it has Hajime's ultimate ability. He doesn't have any. Hajime is a part of the Reserve Corps department, which is a section of students whose parents paid the school to let them attend. The Reserve Corps students were seen as, peasants by the Ultimates since they paid their way into school instead of actually being good at something. Nagito starts to disrespect Hajime after finding out the truth and starts to doubt him, even thinking he's the traitor at some point. Nagito is, something else. This man is crazy. He has this extreme obsession with hope, willing to do anything to help the Ultimates, killer or not. Hell, he's even willing to kill himself. He even gives an edgy speech about how there are people born with talent and people who didn't, and hard work doesn't always mean success. Nagito is willing to get any kind of hope out of anyone, no matter if they're fighting for hope or despair. After all, they're two sides on the same coin anyway. Nagito's philosophy naturally puts Hajime at the bottom of his fuck list, which is why he's being shitty to him. Even though Hajime did a lot of the mystery solving and contributed a lot more than most of the students in the killing game, like he was hope itself, but to be fair, Nagito also helped too. Anyway, after reading the student dossiers, he now knows who the traitor is, and he revealed it in the smartest way possible. Make a fake bomb threat and killing himself. Oh, and Byakuya isn't actually Byakuya. He's a person called the Ultimate Imposter. Like, they don't even have his like basic info or name. He's just the Ultimate Imposter. Insert Among Us joke here, lmao. Long story short, the man lured everyone to a factory, set the building next to it on fire with him in it, make himself look like he was killed by someone, put poison inside one of the many fire extinguisher grenades that everyone used to put out the fire, and use his ultimate luck TM to make sure the traitor used the one with the poison in it to kill him, therefore forcing the traitor to be revealed, because they don't want everyone to die. This case got my boner rock hard because it's so crazy but genius at the same time. Hands down the best case so far. The traitor is Chiaki, the ultimate gamer girl, and it's at the end of this case where the truth begins to unravel. Shit starts getting weird, dead people start coming back to life, everything is glitchy because obviously it's a simulation. The surviving students got the code to enter the future foundation building where they go into this Matrix version of Hope's Peak Academy with 8-bit investigation music in the background, which is pretty cool. This is where a lot of the exposition and info dumping happens, and it's pretty overwhelming. I don't remember all of it, but I'll try my best to explain everything. Basically, we find out what the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, or the tragedy is, what the true identities of the students trapped on this island are, and why the students are on this island. The tragedy began with Junko, the Ultimate Despair, taking advantage of the mistreatment of the Reserve Corps students by the Ultimates. Students were killed, like a lot of students were killed, the news spread online, the despair spread through the entire world, and a war began over classism. I hope that's the right word. After Junko died at the end of the first game, most of the members of the Ultimate Despair committed suicide, but some didn't, and they called the Remnants of Despair. The Remnants of Despair were captured and secretly brought to Jabberwock Island by a member of the Future Foundation and were thrown into the Neo World program, a virtual world used for simulations, to run the Hope Restoration program to turn them back into how they were before Junko brainwashed them with despair. Hajime and the entire class are the Remnants of Despair. Hajime and the others were placed inside the Neo World program to return to normal, but plans changed when Junko was uploaded into the program in an AI virus form to disrupt progress, starting the killing game on Jabberwock Island. During the final trial with AI Junko, she reveals that Hajime actually does have an ultimate ability, the Ultimate Hope. Because of his admiration for Hope's Peak, Hajime was chosen to go through a bunch of terrible experiments that changed his brain, giving him the new identity of Izuru Kamukura. This explains why Hajime had flashbacks speaking to Nagito on a ship. Another plot detail to point out is Nagito's hand in the flashback. Nagito has the hand of a woman. That's one of Junko's hands. After Junko died, some members of the Ultimate Despair cut up her body, sewing her limbs onto themselves to feel and see how Junko experiences the world, and even try conceiving with her corpse. This isn't really an important plot point, it's just there for some shock value, but yeah, I just want to mention that someone fucked their corpse. Anyway, my brain hurts, so let's just end this. So Izuru was the one who put the Junko virus inside the Neo World program before entering. Junko wants to transfer her mind inside everyone so she can take over the world, and this is when Makoto, Kyoko, and Byakuya, who are part of the Future Foundation now, jacks in to stop her. Junko tries to convince the surviving classmates to let her take over in return for reviving their friends who died in a killing game, along with keeping their memories. The students in the simulation are merely avatars for the real ones with memories before their time at Hope's Peak. If they help the Future Foundation and shut the simulation down, they'll lose all their memories, making their time spent with their peers pointless. Struggling with the overly excessive info dump and choosing to sacrifice himself or let Junko take over, Hajime has a mental breakdown but gets visited by Chiaki. Hajime doesn't want to get mixed up in shit he doesn't understand anymore and is afraid to disappear forever, and asks Chiaki if she feels the same way. Chiaki says that even if she ceases to exist, everyone will live with the future she helped create, and that's enough. Chiaki gave Hajime the confidence to move forward to create the future that he wants, becomes Super Saiyan and destroys Junko with future. The simulation collapses and everyone fades into an uncertain future. Whether or not they chose the right decision, whether or not they still remember their time spent together, at least this was made on their own terms. Hajime thanks Chiaki, Chiaki thanks him back, and we move towards a new day. Yeah, so Hajime remembers, so it's a good ending, the end. The story is bonkers. The amount of weird shit and uplifting vibes here is just astounding. I enjoy the characters, the cases, not so much in necrophilia and info dumping, but overall it's an emotional roller coaster that takes you to many places. Danganronpa 2 is a good follow-up. The gameplay is a mixed bag, with the imbalanced difficulty of some minigames and weird logic in some cases. I still can't believe this, but I suggest you to play with the English dub since that'll make the arguments more playable. The story is way more ambitious with good characters and mystery. It just gets too info dumpy towards the end and made me confused at points. If you enjoyed the first game, definitely get this one. It's more demanding and challenging, but the story is worth going through. If you're new to the series, however, start with the first game. You don't need to know the first game's story to understand this one, but it sure would make the payoff more worth it at the end, in my opinion. Go get it. If not, wait for a sale where you can grab all 3 main titles for the price of 1. It's a good game. Okay, that's all for this year. Happy holidays, stay safe out there, and take care of your mental health and sleep schedule. That's what I would want. Remember to like and subscribe and all that YouTube stuff. See you in a month, maybe later.